he chose Jacob when he could have easily chosen Esau. And he chose Jacob, as the verse says, while he's still in the womb. So it's not like Jacob was in there not sinning and Esau was in there sinning. This is just a baby in the womb that he decided to give special blessing to. And the question is, why does that matter? What does this have to do with God loving Israel? There's a general love that God has for everybody. It's a general love that stops God from squishing us just because we're sinners and we deserve death. We deserve judgment. And from the very day we're born, we're rebellious against God. And that deserves judgment. And God's general love for all society stops him from just, ending it right there. He also shows general love to us in his creation. The sun rises and sets on the just and the unjust. The rain comes on the righteous and the unrighteous. There's just general love. But that's not what God's talking about with Israel. It's not like I generally love you. It's I specifically love you. I chose you. And this is not deserved. And that's what he's reminding Israel. That's what he's all about here, is telling Israel, I could have easily chosen your brother Esau, but I chose to love you and to pour special blessing into you and to have my plan worked out through you, Jacob. So through you, Israel. What I do see throughout Scripture also, though, is God, it seems like he mostly chooses the most unlikely person in a situation for his purpose and plan. Examples of that we see throughout Scripture is like God chose David. David is the youngest in the family. He's usually, in that culture, you would have picked the oldest. David is just the youngest, and he chooses him to make a great king. God chose the prostitute Rahab to work out his plans with. I mean, he chose this person that everybody else, and honestly, these people shouldn't have talked to because she was unclean and all those things. God chose to use her. God chose to use these fishermen to be directly mentored by Jesus. And I like that example because I like to fish. And pretty much all the guys I know that fish are just dirty, swearing, kind of burly guys. And God chose them to have direct contact with Jesus. God chose Paul to write most of the New Testament. And Paul is this guy who murdered Christians. And that's who God chose to reveal himself to on the road to Damascus. And so God chooses the most unlikely people, and I believe, and I think the reason he does that is he never wants us to forget that he's the hero of the story. Not David, not Paul, not Rahab. That God is the hero. He's the one that deserves the glory. He's the rescuer. He is the one that saves us. And that is really contrary to almost all of our Western American culture. I really think that most of our culture says, I am important. I am really important. You gotta follow me on Twitter. You gotta get on my Facebook. It's about me. You want to know what I'm doing all the time. It's all about me. And that's what God was really hitting me with over and over and over this last week, is that fight inside me to resist that. And I think in this room, me included, we have a tendency to view God as this small, impotent, needy, little thing. Our view is so small that we follow when it's convenient for us. We see God, I do this, I see God as another choice, like where I'm going to live, or what my profession is, or what kind of style I'm going to wear, or what kind of music I'm going to listen to, or what kind of computer I buy. I treat God like he's an accessory or like a lifestyle choice. We view God as if he were lucky we gave him time. As if he were lucky that we showed up on a Sunday. Or if he's lucky we talked to him during the week. Like it's a good thing for him. How awesome it is for him. And I don't go around saying this out loud. I'm guessing that most of us don't go around saying that out loud. But we show it. We show it in our attitude, we show it in the priorities we have, we show it in the way that we live our life, the way we spend our time, the way we spend our money. And the weight of it this week, I just kept thinking, if we could even catch a glimpse of the perfectly loving, perfectly gracious, perfectly righteous, perfectly wrathful, perfectly judging God, if we got a glimpse of that, we would be on our knees in fear and trembling. Because this is a great God. And He is loving. He is loving. He sent His Son for us. But that doesn't mean, because I'm like, God is love, that I get to respond like an arrogant, prideful child and just be flippant about that love. It doesn't mean that I get to walk around all high and say, oh, well, I believe this about God, so that makes it true, or whatever I believe equals the truth. It just doesn't mean that I get to have this attitude back towards God. Because God and who God is and what His truth is transcends my Western culture entitled mentality. And the truth is that I'm a sinner and I deserve death. The truth is that I reject God constantly and I reject His perfect ways constantly. And whether I like that truth or not, that truth is real. And for some reason, known only to God Himself, He condescends to love me. He chooses to love me. He chose to love you. And He didn't owe you that. I think a lot of times, because of the world we live in, because of the culture we live in, we think, well, God has to love me. He doesn't have to love you. I quitter, he is who follow me. I quitter, he is who follow me. I quitter, he is who follow me.
I'm bringing sexy back.